So, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, I thought I'd give a little update on the current situation of the latest Canadian scandal, because we never have enough of those, apparently. Everything from SNC-Lavalin to the We Day scandal to the Green Slush Fund to Trudeau's New York condo, everything in between. It's a scandal within scandal. And now we are now dealing with foreign interference within the election system. And we have seen coverage of, the testimony and what's been happening there. I just want to show people that from City News, MPs wittingly took part in foreign interference, National Security Committee says. That's such a weird, odd word choice to say there, wittingly. It sounds like they're at like a stuffy kind of dinner party and they're like, ho, 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 I took some money from China. I just did it. It was so droll. Ho, 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 with their monocle. Such full of wits. And it even got into the Times of India, where even outsider countries are reporting on this. India being one of the countries that's under questioning of foreign interference, along with China, along with other nations. And they said Canada Spy Agency reveals Chinese interference in 2 elections won by Justin Trudeau. CSIS confirms Chinese interference in Canadian elections. Aaron O'Toole estimates Conservative losses. Trudeau's government criticized for inadequate response. New Democrats, the NDP, raised concerns about invitations from the ethnic Chinese community. So this has caused a bit of a stir and a lot of attention, and much like, actual interference, not, Russiagate scandal crap, because we know that was manufactured by the Hillary Clinton campaign. But this is actual, legit concerning when there's actual interference in the midst, under our noses, that doesn't really get told to you until we get blown up in the face like this. So this is what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said in testimony here, and this report by True North saying Prime Minister Trudeau goes on a partisan rant and claims he has the names of current and former Conservative officials involved in foreign interference. He says Pierre Poilievre doesn't have the necessary security clearance to be briefed on the matter. And this is Justin Trudeau's go-to point, is that the fact that, well, the leader of the opposition doesn't have the clearance. And because he doesn't have the clearance, something's up with him. Something's up with this campaign. Something's up with the opposition. And why won't he get security and clearance? Even though it has now been proven, we're going to show more detail into this, that the Liberal Party, much like Conservatives, much like the NDP, a lot of people in this parliamentary building and in the House of Commons are brought to you by foreign meddling interference, foreign lobby groups, which is pretty common average at this point. Considering, you got APEC, you got the Chinese backers from the Communist Party, you got oligarch billionaires from all sorts of different directions around the world that are contributing this. You got the WEF, which is why you have Justin Trudeau as a leader. This is just one piece of the giant puzzle of that. But here's what Justin Trudeau said in regards to it.
Because I am Prime Minister and privy to all these informations, I have the names of a number of parliamentarians, former parliamentarians and or candidates in the Conservative Party of Canada who are engaged.
By the way, who wears a suit and tie with a watch on one hand, and it looks like, are those supposed to be like friendship beads on the other hand? Did he just come from camp? Was he a volunteer camp counselor before this testimony? Like, it looks like the friendship beads you make in like public school with your friends. Why would he wear that? Why would that be necessary for you in testimony where you're going to roll up your sleeves and expose that. What's the purpose of that? Unless maybe it's rubber bands. That could be it. Maybe it's rubber bands to, if he says something stupid or incompelling, they just,
engaged or at high risk of, or for whom there is clear intelligence around foreign interference. And I have directed CSIS and others to try and inform the Conservative Party leader to be warned and armed to be able to make decisions that protect the integrity of that party, of its members, from attempts at activities around foreign interference. And the decision by the leader of the Conservative Party to not get those classified briefings means that nobody in his party, not him, and nobody in a position of power, knows the names of these individuals and can take appropriate action. It also means nobody's there to stand up for those individuals if the intelligence is shoddy or incomplete or just allegations from a single source. And that is something that as you've seen, we are ready to question intelligence when it comes towards the Liberal Party members, because we need to make sure if you're going to end someone's career, you're doing it in a responsible way. The decision of the leader of the Conservative.
Yeah, you got to make sure there's a bit of responsibility when you end someone's career. Just like how you threatened Jody Wilson-Raybould and threatened her career if she didn't lie on behest of you having this scandal with a large bank institution. Making sure that that's responsible, making sure that you hide your corruption, your grievances away from the general public, and forcing your former staffer to lie to the entire nation to cover that up. Yeah, that's the responsible act, right? Because you don't want to undermine someone's career irresponsibly. Wow.
Party to not receive the necessary clearance to get those names and protect the integrity of his party is bewildering to me and entirely lacks common sense, particularly when you look at the NSICOP report.
By the way, you notice how in the entire statement that he's dwelling on, because clearly he's trying to make this on the go, he doesn't mention a thing about the integrity of Canadians and their election and their democratic rights. Oh, that's right. Democracy is a joke. That's right. It's the illusion of democracy, because really, in the end, they already handpicked what the policies are going to be. You're voting for basically a mascot, which is what Justin Trudeau is. And they don't care about, voting rights. They don't care about the integrity of Canadian votes or people that are voting in these elections. They don't care about that integrity. But they want to make sure the party is safe. Oh, I want to make sure the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party, the two big giants in the duopoly, we got to make sure their integrity and their mantra is protected, but not the Canadian people. Not the Canadian people, which is why they're making up so many excuses, digging themselves an early grave to hide away these names. But luckily, something's come to be revealed. Because this guy, Anti-Taxer, that's a great name, pointed this out. He says, Justin Trudeau may have inadvertently revealed more than he intended to while he attempted to smear Pierre Poilievre during his testimony at the Foreign Interference Inquiry on October 16th. Trudeau made it repeatedly clear that the leader of the political party and not their chiefs of staff are the only ones who can use top secret information to determine if a candidate can be nominated for election in their party or if they can be elevated to a cabinet position. Trudeau stated all kinds of excuses can be used to cover for the compromised candidates instead of outright revealing knowledge of top secret information. In response to the Conservative Party's lawyer, who questioned why threat reduction measures under the CSIS Act were not used, Trudeau said giving a threat reduction number to that candidate would not necessarily, and quite frankly, in my expertise, highly unlikely to have the candidate spontaneously decide to step down as either a candidate or a love how he adds that in too. A member of parliament and not run in this election. That is the only determination a leader can make. Very interesting. Especially considering that, I don't know, who's this guy here? Sam Cooper and Global News Bombshell reporting in February 2023 of Chinese interference in previous Liberal Party of Canada nominations and Canadian federal elections. Justin Trudeau demoted 7 cabinet members, and a growing list of sitting cabinet ministers have announced they are not going to run in re-election for 2025. And there's a list so far of the names that already are revealed. Helena Jasnik, Omar Al-Jabra, sorry if I'm mispronouncing some of these names, Carolyn Bennett, Joyce Murray, Marco Mendicino, David Lamenti, Mona Fortier, Seamus O'Regan, Pablo Rodriguez, Valimba Tassia, Dan Vidal, Carla Qualthrough, and Marie Claude Bibio. So it's funny that he's trying to steer this in the direction of, well, the Conservative Party doesn't have the clearance, and the Conservative Party, like Pierre Poilievre, who is the leader of the opposition, should be taking these actions more seriously. But yet, here's what Justin Trudeau, knowing all this information, knowing that these cabinet members were put in place, knowing that they took money from Communist Party of China, knowing that they took money from India, knowing that they took money, knowing that, the entire government of Canada was subjugated to the WEF. I mean, look at Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab famously said that his organization helped establish Justin Trudeau. He was part of the Young Leaders Summit of the World Economic Forum, and they penetrate our government with cabinet ministers. They penetrate us with Chrystia Freeland and Theresa Tam. That's why we got the people we got now, and that's why we're in the situation we got now. But they're not going to call out that interference. They're going to take bits and pieces and tell you that, a little bit of interference is bad, but the rest of it is okay. And why they're shamelessly trying to spin this in a weird direction instead of just being upfront and honest about it, considering the fact that we already got a few names already published. Well, now they just listed 4 more. As Canadian Proud points out, bombshell, 4 of the MPs and senators who allegedly received support from China have now been named. And this is from October 28th of this year. Listen to this.
Firstly, my book recounts reporting on a 2020 tape recording provided to me, where Senator Yuen Pao Wu is heard in a 47-minute private briefing with the Canada Committee 100 Society. This group included Conservative Senator Victor O as an advisory member, along with an individual officially listed in a Chinese United Front Overseas Leaders Group. The Canada Committee 100 Society is led in Vancouver by Ding Guo, a journalist who is also an advisor to British Columbia Premier David Eby. Other journalists participating in this tape-recorded meeting with Senator Wu later supported Liberal candidate Parm Bains in 2021. Bains had told these journalists he opposed Kenny Chiu's Foreign Agent Registry Bill, describing it as an exclusionary policy. Ding Guo was also reportedly involved in the 2022 Conservative Party leadership race, alongside community leaders officially connected to Beijing's overseas influence arm, the United Front. I can provide more details later on how this should illuminate NSI COP 2024. In the taped meeting, attendees asked Senator Wu about his stance regarding United Front Work Department community group activities in Canada. These groups, according to CSIS, are central to targeting Canadian politicians for influence and election interference. Senator Wu expressed his concerns about Canada's focus on United Front groups, stating, "Whether you belong to an organization that happens to be listed as a United Front organization should not be a litmus test," and added, "I am fighting very hard against that type of litmus test." In Willful Blindness 3rd edition update, I write, "In a way, Senator Wu's intervention in the Hague Commission seemed to fulfill his taped pledge to the United Front. He repeatedly filed submissions undermining Canadian intelligence and using Chinese intelligence talking points. My confidence that he appeared to act for Beijing was bolstered by information from a person I call Confidential Source 1, who confirmed that Senator Wu, appointed by Justin Trudeau, was under CSIS investigation. Confidential Source 2 also repeatedly stressed that Conservative Senator Victor O, an advisor to the Canada Committee 100 Society, was a significant target in CSIS's investigation into federal election interference. In Willful Blindness, I write about investigations that began in early 2019. I write, according to 3 national security sources, Liberal Cabinet Minister Mary Ng was identified in CSIS investigations as one of 11 Toronto area candidates clandestinely supported by Chinese consulate and United Front influence networks in the 2019 election. CSIS assessed that Mary Ng was unwittingly implicated in this interference network. Despite my requests, Mary Ng and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's office never responded for comment. As I write in Willful Blindness, Mary Ng was one of the key Ontario Liberal government staffers who moved to Ottawa with Trudeau, alongside more high-profile advisors like Katie Telford and Gerald Butts. 2 national security sources indicated that a specific CSIS concern was Ng's staff allegedly meeting privately with a Toronto consulate diplomat to consult on China-related issues. CSIS identified this diplomat, Zhou Wei, as a confirmed intelligence actor. According to one source, quote, "We believe Zhou Wei worked with political staffers to provide information on meetings of elected officials and their whereabouts. We know staff have direction to report privately to the consulate on Mary Ng," end quote. This is a critical detail hinted at in the Hague Commission's initial report, which, for some reason, did not disclose the involvement of Mary Ng's staff with Zhou Wei or clarify what this implies about Ng's position in Trudeau's cabinet. Thank you.
So that was a reading of the reports that confirmed those names and saying that Trudeau well undoubtedly knew about these particular people, their background, their meddling, how they got into politics through lobby campaigns, through meddling of Chinese interference, meddling through these different NGOs. And Justin Trudeau knew about this, but they still put him into power. They still put him, put cabinet, these people into cabinet positions. So it's just amazing to me that, you know, it's really exposed a lot of the federal government here in Canada. I mean, we've seen the fair amount of exposure from, again, the SNC-Lavalin scandal to Weed Ace scandal to Trudeau in blackface to applauding for a Ukrainian Nazi not just once, but twice. And just the genuine disregard of our own citizens at this point. But now it's full front and open just how obnoxious and just abused, and just how our country doesn't even feel like a country anymore. The fact that we know for fact that a lot of these people that are in positions of power are not brought to you by Canadians. They're not brought to you by single Canadian donations. These are brought to you by lobby firms. These are brought to you by people overseas. These are brought to you by foreign meddlers that put them into power like this. So here's the names that he said in the in that statement there. Anti-taxer again says these are the 4 parliamentarians named today that are either wittingly or unwittingly involved in foreign interference: Mary Ng, Parn Baines, Victor O, and Yun Pa Wo, or Wu. Justin Trudeau needs to stop playing games with Canadians and name all of the names now. And I don't know if I don't think I have the clip on me for this, but there was another statement that Justin Trudeau said that, well, the reason why we haven't released the names, and he blames Pierre Poilievre on why he's not getting security clearance and tries to shame this mostly in his direction. But the thing he also pointed out is whether or not there are interference, whether or not there is confirmation that these people did interfere, had foreign meddling to back certain candidates during the election process. He says, regardless, we're still in power. Regardless, I'm still going to be leader of the party. Regardless, I'm still going to be prime minister. And that is the most smugger thing you could say, because if that's the case, if you really genuinely think that it doesn't matter if there's meddling or not, I'm still going to retain power, which no doubtably probably, if these names get released, it's not like it's going to hurt Trudeau even more, then why not just release it? What is the point of hiding this? What is the point? What is the endangerment of hiding this information that's actually hurting more Canadians? It's hurting the integrity of democracy here in Canada, even though it's really just a mirage. Especially after you say that it doesn't matter if they have confirmation of interference or not. So just release those names then. If you're going to still be in power, regardless and if there is nothing to worry about, then release more information. Tell the Canadian public who exactly is in office and if they're siding with Canadians or if they've been backed by foreign interference. They will not release that because the shock value will probably disgust most Canadians. The same way that, Americans must feel when they see how much backer donors from foreign interference and APEC and lobby groups and corporate bigwigs support politicians in the United States. How much money is being sent with APEC, with NGOs across the globe, and the fact that's happening in Canada. So it's just amazing that this is now being on top of everything else that's going on in Canada. Now this is the top of the measure. Now we're dealing with foreign interference. And it's amazing that not a lot of mainstream media is really going deep into this. There's a bit of coverage on Canadian media for the most part just to recognize the fact that this is going on. But it amazes me because of the fact that this is going on, and yet you turn on Rachel Maddow on MSNBC, and the first thing they mention is, 2024, the election's coming up, so let's talk about Russia again. Let's talk about Russia meddling in 2024, because God knows, we can't let a game show host win again, so we got to make sure we got a boogeyman again. Russiagate. And just peddling more conspiracy, when right in front of you is an actual interference situation where there's actual data, there's actual analysis. It's not conspiracy. It's not made up as you go. There's actual facts and data analysis to point all this in the direction of actual interference affecting a democracy. But they won't tell you that. They won't tell you that in mainstream media. They still want to tell you that these people really do represent you, even though you don't know where exactly they came from. Which is kind of goes against the whole purpose of democracy.